Okay, so next we have Barry Wall, another virtual friend. Barry Wall is an educator with over 30 years of experience that crosses all sectors, and he is also the creator and key teacher of the Winning Mindset Creating Warrior Teachers program. Much needed. Through the program and through his work, Barry helps others find their voice and a path through the bizarre culture wars we find ourselves embroiled in. Barry deconstructs current events within the sphere of gender ideology, radicalized politics, and general wokeness on his YouTube channel. Over to you, Barry.
Hello. Hey, Barry. Hi, Barry. Oh, I've got some waving hands, so I'm going to presume that you can all hear me. Fantastic. It's so marvelous to be here. Marvelous to be here. And to be in such esteemed company, some of whom I've had the pleasure of speaking online with previously. As was said, my name is Barry, and hello from the UK, which is where I'm based. I suppose I ought to tell you a little bit about what I do. I've been at this learning game for rather a long time, and my YouTube channel, which is the EDI Jester, has become somewhat popular with a few folks for its irascibility and its general demeanor, although people confuse me with the EDI Jester, and it's not the same thing at all. I come at this from a completely different avenue, I think, than most people, in that I'm very much interested in the cultural impacts of what happens. And it was some 12 months ago, just over, that I first bumped into Alex. Give us a wave, Alex. But I first bumped into Alex, and we discussed the idea of doing something that might be able to help people come to grips with this utter chaos that we find ourselves embroiled in. And so we did. I met with a number of wonderful mothers from all over the world, Sweden, America, the UK, and the Winning Mindset Creating Warrior Teachers was born. And it's not, you don't have to be a teacher to do it. You can be anybody. But what it does is it teaches people to be able to stop themselves from going whenever somebody asks a question about this. What do you mean by that? And you go and try and give it all to them at one go. So it was very much about getting people to teach rather than to tell. And if you are going to adequately change things, and we're very much interested as warrior teachers, not in the grand notions, but in the one-to-one conversations. And if you're going to do that well, you've got to be able to stand back and survey and scan the landscape and ask questions in the right way that is going to enable things to change. So I was most pleased this evening to listen to the previous speakers and to hear so much that we do in the Warrior Teacher Program mentioned by them. Brandon mentioned confusion over language. We discussed this idea of how has language become confused? What's going on? Why what one thing meant yesterday now means something different today? And what is causing that, so that we can explain that? We also look, for example, at things like Amy's mentioned about the importance of, I think the NHS in the UK has proved a barrier to this because it's socialized medicine. And there's a certain irony that a leftist idea like socialized medicine should go somewhat to preventing what seems to be a very leftist dogma that comes with gender ideology, queer theory, and everything else that's attached to it. And we want to really enable people to be able to understand that what these folks do best is they complicate the simplistic and they simplify the complicated. And once you begin to understand that's what they do, it can make it easier for you to have one-to-one conversations with people and to be able to bring some sense to what's going on. Amy spoke about the importance of Little Red Riding Hood. So what Amy's doing there is coming back to culture and saying, look, this is the distillation of thousands of years of parenting in these very important stories that we tell children. So we look at, for example, film, and we look at narratives. Usually when they start, everybody starts on the first session, and there's at least one warrior teacher in the audience today. When they start with the first session, I send them off to watch Harold and Maude, and they're in the WhatsApp growing group saying, what's he making us watch this for? Why am I having to watch this? So there's very much about discussion around the culture that surrounds this. And every month we also we end with a Q&A and a discussion of current events or examples from people who've had success in peaking others, which is what the whole game is about. We've got to get out there and got to peak people. I was also particularly interested to hear from Amy about taking care of yourself. We look at that as well. You know, what must you do for yourself in order to make sure that you're okay? Because of course, as Amy mentioned, you know, if you're doing it alone, it's a terribly lonely thing to do. But I think that some of the people that are now involved, and particularly the first group, have come together as a team fabulously. And I'm seeing it happen in other teams. You know, you find support with others within that particular gathering. I was also quite interested what Jennifer was just saying. Jennifer's still there? Are you there, Jennifer? Give me a wave. I can see you. Yes, right. I was very interested in what you were saying about Nuremberg, which I thought was wonderful. And it did make me wonder whether or not you know about the work of Bernays, who wrote Propaganda. And there's a connection there between Bernays, who wrote Propaganda, and Nuremberg, in that Bernays said, you know, this should only ever be used for certain purposes. And when he found out that Goebbels had adopted it, he was fuming. He was absolutely fuming about it. And that also is connected in various ways to the eugenics movement, which I think has the most resonance of this movement of all previous kinds of moral panics that we've seen in the past within the West. Eugenics probably comes closest to being what this is. They had eugenic shops and eugenic posters and eugenic t-shirts, and everybody bought into this until they went back to the original science and found it was all a bit shonky. You know, it didn't, oh, this done that up, what we done. So there is this idea that we as humans have made these types of mistakes before, and we're going to go on to do it again and again. But we are, of course, caught by this rather strange technology that we now have, which has really hit us all sideways. And I think if we can get used to the idea that we've got the technology wrong, we've got the power to use the technology, but we don't really know quite what to do with it yet, and that it's sideswiped a lot of us, we can begin to understand why this is happening. And I think when Jennifer says this is winnable in our lifetime, I would agree with Jennifer that it is, because I think it started quickly and it will end quickly. And I think that's due to communication and due to being able to get messages out to people very, very quickly. We've also been able to see, thanks to the Warrior Teacher Program, at least 2 desisters amongst the Warrior teachers who started the program. And that for me was a life-changing event. Working with the mums I've been working with, it's been a life-changing event, full stop. To feel that you've been part of something that has actually done something so positive has been an incredible feeling for me. So I thought I would finish off my wibblings this evening. It was the evening for you, it's the middle of the night for me, but I'll finish off my wibblings by reading you a small bit from the Winning Mindset about communication, if that would be okay with you. So I've said, we have never lived in a time where communication can transcend geography like we do now, nor do so as quickly. From stone tablets to mobile phones, our world of communication has shrunk to a nanosecond. We have eliminated distance, and you may want to think about how that has changed individual communication, thought, and reason. What we have achieved technologically as a species would have been unthinkable some 25 years ago, and we can only imagine how Socrates would have reacted. This is a truly profound phenomenon. I gaze at the brilliant full moon, the same one, I think to myself, at which Socrates, Aristotle, and Plato gazed. Suddenly, I imagine they appear beside me. I tell Socrates about the national debate over one's right to die, and wonder at the constancy of the human condition. I tell Plato that I live in the country that has come the closest to utopia, and I show him a copy of the Constitution. I tell Aristotle that we have found many, many more than 4 basic elements, and I show him a periodic table. I get a box of kitchen matches and strike one. They gasp with wonder. We spend the rest of the night breaking wind and lighting it. Funny thing, human nature, isn't it? This is how we are as a species. We are a very strange sort of conglomeration of ideas, but it's an extraordinary thing to be part of a movement that is collaborative in nature and not collective, in which you have the strangest of bedfellows who have all come together to do one thing and one thing only, and that is to protect children and eradicate this nonsense from the public sphere. Thank you for allowing me to speak this evening.